The observational analytic studies we are going to cover in this class include ecologic, case control, as well as cohort studies. You will learn a little more detail about some of these studies when you take Health 402 research methods. The first one we'll talk about is ecologic studies. So typically when we collect data for a research study, we're collecting individual level information. So let's say that I conduct a survey of all of the students enrolled in Health 318. Each one of those students might take my survey and provide information on a set of variables in which I'm collecting data on. That's individual level data. However, we often can conduct what we call ecologic studies. Ecologic studies are different from other kinds of studies in the sense that they're a study that the unit of analysis is a group or a population rather than individuals. So, for example, you could look at counties as the unit of observation. I could theoretically look at the relationship between county level income, so the average income of every California county, and I could look at the relationship between that county level income and county level mortality rates across the state of California. That county being the unit of analysis makes it an ecologic study. We use these kinds of studies when individual measurements aren't available, but we have group level data. So we often have things like county level data, we often have state level data that isn't at the individual level, but we have that county level or state level information that we can then use to examine associations and relationships among variables. Now, these types of studies are really helpful in trying to examine the context of health. So maybe how demographic characteristics and the social environment contribute to the morbidity and mortality of different diseases. But they can lead to what we call the ecologic or ecological fallacy. This is defined as an erroneous inference that may occur because an association observed between variables on an aggregate level does not reflect or represent the association at an individual level. So what this means is that what we are seeing using this aggregate data, for example, state level data, county level data, it might not reflect the true association between two variables if you were to measure them at the individual level. So your textbook gives you an example of an ecologic fallacy. So what we see worldwide is that richer cities have higher rates of coronary heart disease compared to poorer cities. Those cities are the unit of analysis, making that an ecologic study. However, it would be incorrect to conclude that richer individuals have higher rates of coronary heart disease than poorer individuals. And in fact, in industrialized cities, poor people at the individual level have higher coronary heart disease rates than richer ones. So what you see at the aggregate level doesn't translate to what you would see at the individual level, leading to the ecologic fallacy. We're making wrong inferences because what we see at that aggregate level, at that larger unit of analysis, it doesn't reflect what we would actually see if we looked at the individual level. I want to point out that individual associations, so using individual level data, they are considered to be much more superior than ecological associations because we can run into this issue of the ecologic fallacy. So in terms of ecologic studies, they're important because sometimes it's all that we have. We only have group level data at maybe the state level, the county level, and it can provide information about the context of health. And it can be performed because sometimes we just don't have individual level data, and we can conduct these studies pretty rapidly and they don't really require a lot of resources. Some disadvantages, though, include the ecologic fallacy, which we talked about, and also challenges in terms of in having an imprecise measure of the exposure. It's hard to know if the people with the outcome were actually exposed to whatever your exposure of interest is because we just don't have individual level data.